Okay, very good. Okay, good evening and welcome to this first web conference for our language communication language curriculum development. I hope that you are doing well. Quería preguntarles antes de empezar formalmente si me hablan un poco de ustedes, ya que es la primera vez que les voy a escuchar, las voy a ver. Entonces, María Lisette, me cuentas un poco, what is your background? Where are you from? Eh, ¿A qué te dedicas? We would like to listen to you. No te escucho.
¿En inglés o en español?
English, please.
I'm from Pamplona, Norte de Santander. I'm an English. I study at uh, I studied foreign languages and I've been until I teach secondary and middle school.
Okay, thank you. The communication was a little off. And now, Luisa Fernanda.
Yes, and good night, everybody. Uh, I would like to say that I apologize for this time because I don't have a camera, so I can talk like this, yes, without a camera. Okay,
No
right.
problem.
And okay, thank you. And my name is Luisa Belufo. I have a degree in modern languages with an emphasis in English and French. I am 21 years old. And I teach elementary and high school in a private school. I live in Cartagena, and I am known for being a friendly and charismatic and dynamic person.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Okay, like I said before, my name is Viviana Ospina. I have been a teacher for over 18 years, and now I graduated from this master program, and right now I'm studying a doctorate in education. So I am a doctorate student at the moment, and I've been with UNAD University since 2019, and I live in Valle del Cauca, in Tuluá, where I teach at another public institution, another public university here in my town. And I am very glad to see you here. I'm glad that you gave yourselves the opportunity to study, to move forward with the master's program. If there are any questions to which I can be of help to you, um, it will be wonderful. If you want to ask, talk to me through Teams. Is usually the best way to do it. Through Teams, I'm actually answering within one day, if not the same day. Excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry about the dogs barking. Now, I'm going to share my screen with you so that we can start today's web conference. And here it is. Okay. Can you please tell me if you can see my screen?
Actually, I can see.
You can? Out there? Can you see it?
I cannot
I'm not.
You don't. And you?
hear.
Okay. Could it be your internet? Let me see. Laura se salió. Sí, debe ser el internet. She should be back in a bit. Okay, so let me go back and continue here. Okay. Hang on a second. Know what's going on with the internet. Here it is. I'm going to share again. One second. The internet is very slow. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so here it is. Ay, Dios. What happened? Hello? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back. I'm not quite sure what happened with the internet, but I'm back. So now I'm going to show you my screen. Okay, here we go. Let's go back to the screen I'm sharing. Please confirm that you guys can see my screen. Ahora sí. Let me see. What is going on? These dogs are crazy. Vamos a ver por acá. Ahora sí, por acá. Bueno. Lo siento mucho. So sorry with all the interruption, but I don't know what's going on with the internet. I think it's a little fluctuating. So here I am. So today we are going to talk about Unit 1 and Step 2, case discussion. Okay. Like I said, my name is Viviana Ospina, and today we are going to work with this part of our course. So to start, we are going to talk about language curriculum development, and this is a more comprehensive process than a syllabus design. When we think about a syllabus is just, it shows me how I need to proceed in a particular class for a particular subject, whereas a curriculum is developed to be able to be a more comprehensive document or step-by-step information that includes all these processes that are used to determine the learning objectives, to determine how the learners obtain said learning requirements and how is developed for a specific program or those specific students who have different needs. So within the curriculum lies the appropriate syllabus, the course structure, and also the teaching methods and the materials that we use as teachers, as well as the evaluation process that we would have within a program to teach English or any other language as we understand it. So it is this set of processes, and we need to review and remember that language curriculum is not static or permanent. A curriculum, especially a language curriculum, it's always moving, developing, and incrementing, evolving as we go. So when we think about the evolution of language curriculum, we need to think about how we need to make changes from these traditional methods that have been used all through the years, and how we can shift these teaching methods to a more student-centered context. So before, we used to have, teacher-centered methods, and now we need to have student-centered methods, which are more involved towards the students' relevance and the students' needs, rather than what the professor or the teacher needs to have come across. So it continues to adapt and change according to the needs of the learners. And we need to remember that this role evolves as English evolves as well within a globalized world. So now we have an interdependent relationship. We cannot say now that only English is the most important language. It is used as the main communication bridge within different countries and different continents, but we need to look at globalization and see how we can position the process of learning and teaching based on the students' needs, right? Now, a bit of history now. We are going to go over the development of the curriculum that, as we know it today, which began in the 1960s, right? And here is where we can go through situational approach, audiolingual method, European countries in the 1970s, and now to what we are aiming today, to communicative language teaching method. So first, in the 1950s and 1960s, language teaching was more methodological rather than having the students to communicate. It was just learning rules and structures. And then it came audiolingual method that it actually took place in the 1960s. And this method was born when we needed the military to learn specific commands or specific simple phrases to communicate. So they started using the audiolingual method. And then in European countries in the 1970s, they started looking at it to determine how foreign languages should be taught in the school system. Around these areas is when we started to think about this interdependence from one country to another, but yet it wasn't seen as we see it today. And finally, when we come to the communicative language teaching, we re-examine those basic assumptions that we had before, right? That rather just to teach grammar and to teach rules and norms and vocabulary, we now process this learning about learning goals and also the natural process and how language teaching really occurs and how students gather this information to learn. So we have some important events, right? In these important events that we have, we can start on the English for specific purposes, or ESP, which was taken around the 1970s, that approached different disciplines such as medicine, engineering, or sciences. So these specific purposes, this type of English was used only within this determined context. Also, in the 1970s, then we started going communicative. We started thinking about communicative learning training. And finally, around the 1980s, is that emerging of this philosophy that was in the needs base, or what the student needs to be able to learn. What are these learning objectives that he or she may need, and what for, rather than just a specific language as a specific purpose, like it's right here in the 1970s. We moved to the 1980s thinking about the students, what they needed to be able to learn the language. So starting on the 1980s, we started looking at students as the center of education, the center of learning. And so that view of the curriculum started developing further, deeper into these more central elements of the language programs. And this design was widely accepted when we were teaching English or any other language as a foreign language. So as the curriculum developed, also did the regulations. So language curriculum development units have been established in the ministries of education since the 1980s, and they mandate a review and develop a national language teaching curriculum based on a curricular development perspective. This perspective, when professors, researchers, teachers around the world started looking at the development of the curriculum based on the students' needs, so did the Ministry of Education. The ministries of education, they started saying, okay, since we are looking at the student as the center of the learning process, we also need to regulate this line of work. So that's when they started developing these language teaching curriculums that we used in different countries that are mandated by, in our case, the Ministry of Education, that we use, English teachers, we use the Guide 22, right, where all the standards are and the can-do statements. So this development and these regulations have taken importance for the students. So how can the curriculum give learners the linguistic and other resources they need to understand and access resources they have the right to make use in a community and to articulate and defend their own rights and interests? When we think of a curriculum that is imposed to students, is regulated by the Ministry of Education, thinking of a student-centered process, that this author is calling us to enable the students to critically examine and become active in shaping their own roles. So this is when nowadays we are trying to have the students become agents of change within their learning process. We don't need passive learners. What we are looking for is active learners who are the center of the process, but also can give meaning to this learning that needs to be placed under a curriculum. And that is why I mentioned that the curriculum is not static and that is forever moving, because we need it to evolve. right? So how can you make use of a language and articulate it to defend your own rights and interests? How can students do that? Well, nowadays, the curriculum is not placed only on the teacher's responsibility. Nowadays, the students are heard. Also, the school community is heard, other professors. So is building happens through the dialogue. That's why the curriculum cannot be a static process. It needs to be moving along with the students. So when we think about the task that we have at hand right now, the main topic is to talk about the changes in the curriculum, right? Not to talk about the language methods and approaches. So you could focus on the methods and the approaches, but you don't need to stop there too much. You can talk about it, but remember that the main focus is to mention the curriculum models. So we need to focus on curricular models, and that is essential. So for this task, we are going to mention the evolution of the curriculum and these different methods that have been used and the approaches. But also keep in mind that you can just talk about them, very perfunctorily. You don't need to go too deep into it. And make sure that you read the references and identify the main changes and present them. Rather than tell us what they are, tell us what the main changes have been. And also focus on the curriculum models and reflect what was important in these different moments of history. What was happening in this particular time that makes it important? So think about that when we're working on your task. Also, I would like to mention these important topics that I would like to share with you. And the first thing is that to create your presentation, make sure that you are creating an interactive presentation, right? And when an interact with creative presentation, in order for it to be effective, it needs to have interactivity. It needs to be appealing so that when the person is looking at it, it's something professional, something clean, and you recall aesthetics. Make sure that you combine the colors accurately and be harmonious with it. And also make sure that the images that you use are coherent with the information. Remember that when we use an interactive presentation, we would like to have, little pop-ups or little windows that open up or have, hidden messages in different presentations. So make sure that you also check that your link is set to public so that I'm able to look at it and grade it. So that is the recommendation based on the task itself. So now I want to look at your. So remember that we need to analyze, and respond to real life situations or problems related to language curriculum development. When we are looking at these real life situations, I would like you to place yourselves in your context. If you work at a school, look for these problems that are happening in your school. If you work at SENA or if you work at another university, place yourself in this institution. Like Luisa mentioned, she teaches in primary school and also high school. So look and see what problems you may find, real life situations or problems that are related to the curriculum, right? And learners are expected to participate in these virtual discussions and share your ideas and things like that. Since we are encouraging you guys to argue correctly and propose and develop your critical thinking skills, also it's important for you to check on these approaches that we have. Make sure that you look at the resources. The assessing and the environment needs analysis for curriculum development in language teaching. You will find the videos that we propose very helpful. So I would like you to look at those, take your time to find and work on them. So right now, I would like to ask you if you have questions regarding the task that we have at hand at this moment. Okay, I see that there is no questions. So I would like to make sure just to take a look at the recommendations for the submission and learning. Remember that your submission of your learning evidence needs to be that individually you have to create a resource and the contents of the resource, the quality of the contents, nature of the case study, and understanding of your case. It's important that you look at this case that will be your main work throughout the process of this course. For example, when you look at curriculum development, and one of the main problems or situations that we have in different public schools is per se that you may have students with special needs. And so the curriculum needs to be also focused to supply some additional information or additional help for these students. So what is happening in the school that maybe the curriculum for language learning is not sufficient. So there is a problem right there. So what will be your proposal? What do you see? Remember that at this moment, we are looking into what is happening around us. That is where you will be able to find your problem or situation that you will try to look at and work upon throughout the different stages of this course. So since you guys don't have any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you very much for your attendance and for being here. And for those of you who did not attend, you are welcome to watch the recording. So I'm going to stop the recording right now and stop. Okay, guys.